Thank you, Brandy. I'm assuming that means we're ready. So I will call the meeting to order. This is the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, Tuesday, June 25th, 6 p.m. To order at 6 o'clock. I'm going to use the computers for time and pledge allegiance. I'm going to go out of the ordinary and ask Dan to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, Dan. Approval of the minutes. There is none. Appearances before the commission. I don't have any, and I'm assuming Dan's here for an agenda item. So item 5.1, public hearing on a proposed Sixth Amendment to the preliminary development plan for Conservancy Place Plan Unit Development, with such PDP amendment proposing to increase the number of authorized total housing units in the Conservancy Place PUD from 1,097 to 1,330. And within that total, the number of authorized attached residential housing units from 711 to 911. Specify, thank you, Colleen, future park and recreational uses for approximately 17 acres east of the Yahara River and north of Windsor Road, and incorporate other amendments mainly reflecting changes in conditions within Conservancy Place since the 5th PDP amendment was adopted in 2018. I'm going to open that public hearing at 6:02. As I look at staff, is there any introduction? Looks like Mark. Go ahead.
Thanks, Jim. I'll just kick it off and I'll be brief here. We're here tonight to consider and have the Planning and Zoning Commission potentially recommend approval of an amendment to the preliminary development plan for Conservancy Place. The preliminary development plan, or PDP for short, is the guiding document for that development, which has been in play for over 20 years right now. And this amendment, I think, is the 6th amendment to the preliminary development plan. It's been revisited from time to time, every 4 to 6 years, when new and emerging opportunities or challenges emerge with implementing the development plan for Conservancy Place. This time around, we could talk about the details, but the major changes being proposed have to do with increasing the permitted housing units, as Jim read in the agenda, and also in conjunction with an amendment to a development agreement for Conservancy Place, transferring close to 17 acres of land from the developer to the village for recreational purposes. The procedure here tonight is the public hearing. The hearing has been noticed in the newspaper. We've also, based on a zoning ordinance amendment you all recommended last year, notified everyone who lives within 100 feet of any land that could have a land use change or a density change as a result of this proposed amendment. Following the public hearing, any comments, we can get into additional detail on what comes next. You do have a recommendation in your packet that we can explore in detail at the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I guess we will take that up under 5.2, but currently under the public hearing and seeing nobody around. Anybody online, if you could raise your hand. I will assume that's enough time to raise your hand. So I'm going to close the public hearing at 6:04 and move on to item 5.2. I'm going to say the discussion and recommendation on a lot of the stuff I read under 5.1. So if I could end it there, and we'll move into discussion and recommendation on this PDP amendment. Open it up to the commissioners unless staff wants to kick it off once more. Mark, Bill?
Yeah. So would be happy to
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
Oh, since I'm here, I might as well talk, right?
Yep.
So I want to give you just a little bit of background in regards to process and how we got kind of to this point. So this started with a conversation about updating the master development agreement, the restated redevelopment, or let me guess myself, the restated master development agreement. And that being because a number of items, responsibilities, obligations within that agreement have been completed. This was on the tail of the village completing construction for River Road and for Windsor Road. As we constructed those two public infrastructures, there were sections or portions within the development agreement that the village did not complete, mainly because the improvement wasn't necessary, or there were ability to have cost savings. So for example, on River Road, in the restated master development agreement was replacement of the bridge over the Yahara River. The village decided that we did not need to replace that. It still had sufficient life left in the bridge itself. That was a total project savings of about $160,000 in construction, potentially. In regards to Windsor Road, I believe Windsor Road was spec'd in the development agreement to be 44 feet from curb to curb. And I believe because of restrictions in the right of way there, it was constructed at a width that wasn't as wide as 44, I believe 34, 36. And so there was a desire to update the master development agreement to match the current conditions. As a result of that, and in discussion with Bullish at the time, there were some market demands that required and suggested that more housing would be requested as part of the PDP. And so we went down that road. Village staff considered in exchange for the additional units, the 16.7 acre piece labeled East River on your screen here in exchange for parkland for those units. When we went through that assessment, a couple of reasons why that particular piece came to mind. One, I believe it's been a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years even now, that the village first had discussions about which parcels of land within the village of DeForest made sense for mountain biking at that time. And so very few pieces of property within the village of DeForest had the terrain, had the accessibility that would be desirable for such trails. Now, the village board and the ad hoc committee did not choose this property, this parcel to move forward as its top contestant. Instead, there are two other parcels recommended, and the village staff, particularly myself, did contact landowners of those two other pieces. And essentially they were either not for sale, or the cost of that to acquire those pieces of land were too high. So we took a second look at this property to see if it made sense. After some discussion, I believe the main reason why it was dropped initially was access across the wetlands. And so, in discussing with some folks, thinking about how we can make improvements to the land to get across to the hillside, to the more developable, what will be developable land. And it seemed feasible at the time. And so that's kind of how we got to really understanding what essentially the trade would be for parkland towards the units. Following that, we did make an assessment based off of land use and financials. To talk about land use here, I believe that the original PDP, or the most recent PDP, has this parcel put into a potential development. And Mark can correct me if I'm wrong here,
It's called future.
future development.
It's just called future. It
Um,
was very much a placeholder.
So it wasn't, considering that we weren't taking a parcel from, say, a conservatory area or something that was reserved for parkland previously. And then looking at that, we also look at the proximity to the Yahara River. In that it directly addresses a couple of issues, not only mountain biking, but the village's strategic plan, which was adopted last year. It meets 3 of the mission statements of the strategic plan. Those 3 to name off, 1, to provide visitors and travelers an opportunity to visit the forest through unique tourism attractions and cool creative events. The second mission is to provide existing residents with potential newcomers with a variety of housing products. And that's not this parcel here, but that's a tribute to the additional units. And then lastly, to provide all people in the forest with a healthy and high quality of life through exceptional trail system and stewardship of natural resources like the Yahara River. So with the proximity, taking it from a future development area to a recreational parcel, and then with it being if the village chooses to move forward, a special use park to be, constructed, managed by the village, made a lot of sense, right? And even if the village decides not to move forward with mountain biking on this this parcel, it makes sense to have it as parkland, whether it's for hiking or, if the village decides to just reserve it. So from a financial standpoint, when you crunch the numbers, I believe the memo states that, and the development agreement will say that for the 16.7 acres, the developer would in exchange get approximately 233 additional units. If you crunch that out, it comes out to about $606,000. At 16.7 acres, that's 83 cents per square foot. If you consider the developable area of 9.7 acres, it's about $1.43 per square foot. If you were to go out and look at other property in the Village of the Forest that would be developable, or have water or sanitary hookup, or have the pristine environment, you're looking at anywhere between $1.20 per square foot, all the way up to about $5 per square foot. And so to take that same amount of money and to acquire that elsewhere, you'd be challenged. So those are all things for consideration. Not one thing, made it, the most desirable, but all those things combined made it make a lot of sense. In regards to the units, there's something to be said about the density. I know there's some discussion within the village now about, potentially where should there be density, where should there be single family homes. And we took a look at that primarily too. If you look at, I think some of the history of the PDP, the 2003 PDP authorized a total of 1,275 units and actually 925 attached units. And so, these final numbers are close to that. The more density that you have means the more area that you have reserved for parkland. It's within the framework of CARP-C, which, they've adopted their framework, I believe just last year also. The 233 additional units, if they were all single family, would require a minimum of 52 additional acres to develop on in any other subdivision. That's not including roads, additional parkland or stormwater retention. And the 233 units, quick math here at about $175,000 per unit will provide approximately 40,000 or 40 million in value to the village. And then that comes out to about $733,000 in annual tax revenue. So we did take a look at that and, what kind of pros and cons it would be to the village. And that's where we are currently.
Thank you, Bill. Mark, did you want to add anything before we open it up?
No, I'm very happy to answer questions.
Okay. I've got a couple myself, but I'm going to open it up to commissioners first.
Jim, I have a question. I'm trying to understand the 16.7 acres that is going to be designated towards parkland. Was that all buildable acres?
No,
I didn't think so. So only what portion of it was buildable acres?
given the floodplain and wetland that are mapped by the FEMA and DNR respectively, we estimate that between 9 and 10 are developable. Before any development could happen, wetland delineation would need to be performed. And at that time, we'd know exactly what that amount
Okay,
was.
all right.
And, broadly speaking, when I had that map up when Bill was talking, just to give you a rough sense as to what is going on here, where you see the lighter color areas, those are likely wetlands. And the darker colors are less likely to be wetland. And the DNR, if I were to turn on the DNR layer here, you'd see, some wetlands down here. That's, I think, what Bill was talking about, the likely need to do a wetland crossing, and that's been done in other locations with boardwalk, in the village before, to get to the, larger piece that, has significant upland area to potentially do trails or whatever the recreational plan may be.
Okay, and then the area up that has the square at the top, what was that?
It just happens to be another tax parcel. I think it might have been associated with another ownership at some point in the past.
Okay.
But it's combined with this, very irregularly shaped parcel that I'm tracing around right now. Plus that parcel, that's the 16.7 acres.
Okay.
And within that total is, between 9 and 10 developable acres.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet.
I think that square parcel is associated with the farmstead. I'm looking at Dan because I think you're maybe the only one that maybe remembers it was a Bott's property, if I remember right. Yep. Shannon, did you have anything else? Okay. Mark, I'm sorry, could I interrupt? And I want to add or ask of you, can you talk about what the process would be? I know we're talking about it as if this would be parkland, but I'm assuming there's a rezoning, or is it going to stay in the FDP, or does it get removed from the FDP?
No, the proposal is to keep it within the Conservancy Place Plan Unit Development. Within the proposal, it would be designated for future park/recreation use, which would be the only, potential use if this amendment were adopted.
Thank you. Other commissioners, questions? Yep, go ahead, Lisa.
Thanks for your help today, Mark. It sounds to me that we're only looking at a slight increase from the original proposal in 2013 of a few hundred units, and it's really it, maybe 4 or 5% increase in units. Is it?
In the early 2000s, this number that you see proposed at 1330 total units in all of Conservancy Place was 1,275. And the number you see as maximum attached residential units, including, everything from duplexes onto apartments that you see at 911 in the proposal was 925 in the early 2000s version of the PDP. And then it kind of flopped around a little bit over the years based on how much land was available for different housing types as the PDP was amended.
Thank you for that history. That's all I have.
Thank you, Lisa. Anybody else? I've got one comment. If you could go to the road portion where it was, there's different colors for arterial versus collectors.
That. Let me rotate it here.
The one comment that I have is having to do with I'll say the old River Road that still has the pavement. Oh,
Sure, the segment here.
yes.
Mhm.
So that's shown as a minor arterial, and I would suggest it's not even a collector or even a connector anymore.
Yeah, I think once this goes to village board, we can just pull off any indicator of what, underlying indicator that ties it to any of these. It's essentially a driveway.
Yeah,
Thank you. Good catch.
that was my only comment. Yep, Lisa.
I'm sorry, I just thought of this question. I know when the bridge went over, east-west from Conservancy, there was like a lot of issues with the Army Corps of Engineers coming in and things of that nature, and you all had a lot to deal with that way. Is this proposal looking to be very expensive for the village, even just to implement access and egress to future development there? Or would Bullish be responsible for paying for that, the bridge and the access points over that wetland? You mentioned the lighter colors being wetland.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Army Corps was involved with the Innovation Drive Bridge project. There were wetland and floodplain impacts associated with that project that were mitigated. We don't have a master plan for recreational use of this park yet. There will be one that's required, and in fact, it'll require a final development plan be approved by this body before the park or recreation or trails or whatever's going to go there can be built. I think what was discussed right now was not necessarily a road or even a driveway, but rather basically a means for a bike or a person on foot to get across the wetland, like the boardwalk bridges you see in portions of the Upper Yahar River Trail corridor. And that would be ended up being the village's responsibility. I will say it very well could be and should be development funded, because those 233 additional units, they don't have to pay park land dedication fees anymore, because this is the compensation for that. But they will still have to pay park improvement impact fees. I don't have the exact total, but it's going to amount to a fairly significant number that can, go a long way to funding the improvements necessary in this facility.
Yeah, and the village also has a strong history of chasing grants and getting awarded grants for these type of projects. And so that would be the intention, depending on the full extent of what this park plan entails, and then what the cost thereafter would be. It does have access to Windsor Road, and you can see actually a driveway there. So that will be all part of the conversation whenever the planning for this property comes together, is whether or not there'd be access. There's water, there's sanitary sewer, so whether there's going to be bathrooms there, et cetera.
Thank you.
I guess if I could add the Innovation Spring Crossing, why that was such a long process is there really was only one spot that they could cross, or it was the narrowest spot, and it included floodplain mitigation and things. And I guess what I look at this potential park is there's a whole lot of, say, creativity that could be done with bridges and trails that could maybe not be impactful to floodplain, or could be changed where they didn't have those options at the single road crossing. I think that road was even more or less dedicated, so it was pretty much locked in for its location. Lisa, did you have anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, or can I ask staff to maybe pull up the, would it be is it a resolution? or a-
It's actually not. It's a recommendation to the board. Oh, I'm all flummoxed here. Here we go. So the recommendation occurs on the first page of my memo, which should appear momentarily. There it is. And so my recommendation is that you all recommend board approval of the June 2024 Sixth Amendment to the PDP. That's in your packet, subject to one condition, the condition that this Sixth Amendment take effect only upon the execution of the amended master development agreement that provides for the transfer of that 16.7 acres. So on the village's half, you know, basically from the village's perspective, you don't get the 233 units until we know we get the 16.7 acres of land. So that'll be constructed into a village board approval ordinance, but we don't have that ready for you tonight or necessary, I don't think.
So that's staff recommendation. Is there anybody wanting to make a recommendation at this time? Ellie?
I'll make a motion for a recommendation to the village board to approve the Sixth Amendment and the following as stated by Mr. Ruffers.
Thank you, Colleen. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Jean. Any further discussion?
Could we maybe discuss just the other bullet points that are there and just anything that might be of relevance that we should know?
Sure.
I went through them, but I'm not sure if I'm picking out what's,
Important.
yes, exactly.
Yeah, so the developer, and Joe Ring is on the line and he can certainly answer some of this stuff too if need be. But when it was clear that we would have to open up the PDP, we basically both agreed that we should look at all, you know, all of it cover to cover to see if it still works and what might not, you know, what might additionally benefit from change. So the bullet list very quickly, existing conditions, that section hadn't been updated, I think, at least since 2018. A lot has happened in Conservancy Place since then, so we updated it. No substantive change. There's always a tricky relationship between the zoning rules in the PDP, the village's zoning ordinance, and private covenants that govern parts of this development. We tried to kind of clean up a little bit that relationship with some minor changes, nothing noteworthy within that second bullet. The third bullet there, there was an exemption or potential exemption to bury overhead utility lines along River Road and Windsor Road. Those projects are done, so those sections are no longer required. The next bullet, we have a few different attached residential districts called Yahara River Homes, Town Center Homes, and Parkview Homes. So far, they didn't allow single family homes, or in some places, 2-family homes, which ran contrary to for example, the condominium development that you see along Conservancy Commons Park. That's technically single family homes. So we wanted to clean that up a little bit and say, yeah, you can do single family and 2-family in those districts. This next bullet, remove provisions for continuation of quote interim uses. Those were the ABS and once Takata Gaming metal buildings on Windsor Road that have been knocked down within the last 4 or 5 weeks for the Riverstone townhomes. So we didn't need that provision anymore. The PUD's Park Recreation District, the description of it described parks, in certain cases, parks that have been replaced by other parks. You may remember that there was to be where part of River's Turn is now a community park coupled with a school site. There was still an old reference to that, so we cleaned that up and tried to generalize it a little bit. The next one, reduced minimum lot frontage in the Innovation Springs Business Park District from 145 feet to 45 feet to match the OR zoning district. You'll recall that we had a proposal to build a hotel. That hotel, given the depth of that kind of land between the interstate and River Road, kind of called for a unique approach, and it required a flag lot, and the flagpole was actually skinnier than 150 feet. It was at 45 feet, so this would enable things like that to happen in those kind of situations. Updated land use description section. Yeah, this was this and the map that I had up a little bit earlier basically recognized the fact that a lot of Conservancy Place has developed, and the options that certain areas had for either attached residential housing or single family or business park have narrowed to one thing as those lands have developed. So that just described that. There was a next one. Was a basic phasing section. There was some concern back in 2018 that you might have too many single family developments going on at one time. At that point, we had Rivers Turn Fifth and the Meadows of Conservancy Place kind of happening at the same time. Really not a concern anymore. The Meadows is all done. Rivers Turn Fifth is done. We may see development of the Knolls area, the North River area soon. You know, we hope to build up some more single family housing stock, but the phasing concern kind of dissipated, so we simplified that. And then the maps, including the one Jim commented on and the one I had up, were simplified again to narrow the range of uses that can be done in the future for areas that are already developed. So someone couldn't technically come in and say, I've got a duplex. So this area was also designated as Innovation Springs Business Park. I'm going to open up a business out of my home. So it kind of clarified and finalized the zoning of a lot of those areas. And as I mentioned earlier, the only one that really changed from a designation of future, quote unquote, to a park and recreation now was that East River area. So those are the other changes that were provided.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You bet.
Thank you. There is still the motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I would ask all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Item 5.3, discussion and recommendation to vacate and discontinue a portion of Lindy Lane in the village of DeForest, Dane County, Wisconsin. Is that anybody?
That's me. Sorry. We were working on the motion and the second and the vote and all of that. Oh. Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, so we received an application from the property owners, Vienna DeForest LLC, which is located, let me get the map out here so that we have a better idea. So we are talking about this parcel and this parcel here, these two parcels, and this Lindy. It's designated as Lindy Street here, but I think everything else is Lindy Lane. So the property owner has submitted an application and a petition. The application is for a certified survey map to combine these two lots. And if the petition for vacation is approved, it would include the combination of this portion of Lindy Lane that is currently proposed for a public road. So the first step in the process, we don't have a CSM to review tonight. That will be forthcoming. What we're gonna do, the first step in the process now is to actually vacate Lindy Lane. And it comes through the Planning and Zoning Commission as a recommendation to the village board for this vacation. And so as the first step in the process, we'll do that. It's going to go to the village board meeting on the 16th of July, I think. Yes, 16th of July, for, action from the village board. The certified survey map, like I said, is forthcoming. There are some easements located on the existing CSM that the property owners are looking to either have removed, moved, released by the village and things of that sort. So that will come back around. That CSM, if the petition for vacation is approved by the village board, that CSM will reflect that Lindy Lane will no longer be shown on that map. So that's the quick overview. I do have Dan Paulson, who is the surveyor here, available for questions if anybody have any questions. And then I also believe on Zoom is the attorney for the property owner, which would be Ronald Trachtenberg. Otherwise, let me. So here's the staff report, and this is the recommendation requested by the Planning and Zoning Commission, if you choose to do so.
Thank you, Brandy. I'll open it up to commissioners as far as any discussion, any questions, comments. Jean? Yeah.
I'm just curious, how long is that street that would be vacated? What's the length of it?
I think, oops.
I know I tried to see it, I couldn't.
500 feet.
531 feet.
Thanks.
Yep. Let me ask commissioners first. Any
Yep.
other questions, Jean? Mr. Trachtenberg, did you have a comment?
Two comments. One, we also own the land to the north of Lindy Lane. That's to the left. And the other comment I want to make is that Lindy Lane itself has never been built. It was simply platted or CSM'd to provide access to the lot adjacent to the interstate, which was going to be mini warehouses.
Thank you very much. So again, we're looking for a recommendation or further discussion, and anybody willing to make the recommendation? Colleen?
I would recommend that the village board approve vacating and discontinuing a portion of Lindy Lane.
Thank you, Colleen. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Shannon. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Item 5.4, action to direct the zoning administrator to schedule and provide appropriate public notices of a public hearing for TID number 6 project plan amendment. Brandy, do you have any comment or you need a minute?
So I could fill this one. If you could,
Thank you.
yeah, pull up GIS, that'd be helpful. So tax increment district number 6 has an expenditure period coming up in the, I think, October of 2025. As we've done in the last couple of years, we'll be processing a project plan amendment to that. Thank you. For reference, I'll just pull up here where TID 6 is on a map. This is our Northern Business Park. Tonight we'll just be looking to set the public hearing for that amendment. The amendment itself is currently in draft form. We will have that available for both commissioners and the public review second week of July. So everything in green here is TID number 6. Again, as we're nearing the end of the expenditure period, we're looking to clean up a couple of the outstanding projects that remain, update costs, we'll be removing certain projects from the plan that we won't have time or the intention to do before the expenditure period deadline. And then a large portion of the amendment is also spurred by redevelopment activity, proposed redevelopment activity in the southern part of the district. As you all know, we adopted a general plan for redevelopment last spring. So this kind of comes on the back of that. I believe in 2022, this district was amended to also to facilitate redevelopment activities. So we'll have more information to you all when that project plan reaches a point where it's ready for viewing. But tonight we'll just be looking to set the public hearing. And again, that public hearing, we're hoping to set that for the July meeting to meet certain timelines.
Thank you, Alex. Yes, I would ask for some update on the development, but I think that can probably wait to the public hearing. Any questions, comments? Is there dates proposed? I think there was some.
Yep. So we would be looking to set the public hearing for the July 23rd Planning and Zoning meeting. And Brandy you'd be directing Brandy to provide the appropriate public notices.
Okay. Looks like you're looking for an action to do that. So is there anybody willing to make that same motion? Yes, I will make a motion to direct the zoning administrator to schedule the public hearing and provide public notice to TID number 6 project plan amendment for the July 23rd planning and zoning meeting.
Second.
Seconded by Colleen. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We are on to 6.1. Thank you, Alex, by the way. Annual review of Village of DeForest Comprehensive Plan. I'm assuming that will be Mark.
The commission is aware that the village adopted a new comprehensive plan in 2023. You all were a big part of that over the course of the previous few years, including through COVID. The plan includes 27 different initiatives or to-dos within it to carry out the goals and the vision within the comprehensive plan. The general idea is that those things will either be done or otherwise disposed of in the 10 years between this update and the next update of the comprehensive plan. The plan also says that the village board and planning and zoning commission intend to devote at least a meeting to review progress on plan implementation each year. And comparing performance to those 27 initiatives and also some more quantitative benchmarks, measures of improvement within the village, whether it's non-residential tax base added or trail miles added, things that have actually happened on the ground rather than paper that's been pushed around to achieve a particular initiative. We put together collaboratively a couple of documents from the plan to kind of measure performance. Those are in your packet. Good news, I got to smile now, is the performance has been really fantastic over the past year. There's been a lot of initiatives executed, a lot of others started. And a lot of the performance benchmarks have not only been met, but substantially exceeded over that period of time. The two tables you have in front of you, I'll touch on just a few things that relate to P and Z and your function, and I'll try to make this thing larger. So you may remember we went through an exercise among P and Z members and board members to prioritize these 27 initiatives. handful got top priorities, others got high, and the rest were assigned moderate priority. When I did this with the board the other day, we focused on the top, but I'm just going to focus on a few of them that more relate to your charge. Some of them top, some of them others. On the subject of protecting environmental corridors, you can see on the right that the village has done work to prepare wildlife management plans and riverside protection plans as in the process of implementing those, and that implementation will begin in earnest, in particular next year. The board has discussed ordinance related to the preservation of natural areas, including bike appropriate areas. It ties a little bit to what Bill was talking about earlier. And as we've gone through 3 urban service area additions over the past year and reviewed other development proposals, sometimes overlapping with those, the village, working with CARPC and the developers, have identified and mapped environmental corridors through wetland delineations and other things to refine that network. The other ideas that are in the comprehensive plan that I wanted to touch on are really a cluster of ideas that relate to housing. They relate to achieving a housing mix. I'll try to, always pushing people around here. Achieving a housing mix that includes both choice, but also reflects village character. Supporting thoughtful siting and design of higher density housing, and supporting more housing for seniors and workforce. Those initiatives have all been worked on mainly through the review of development proposals and changes to them. There's been work to promote single family lot expansion through the Homestead Edition to Savannah Brooks. We have word and hope that that project may break ground yet this year to build the Homestead Edition plat, 60-ish additional single family housing units within Savannah Brooks. I touched on it earlier. So Rivers Turn 5th edition is nearly sold out. And the developer is interested in moving forward with developing either entirely or predominantly single family homes in what's been called the North River area or the Knolls, the northern parts of Conservancy Place. That could happen as soon as this fall or next spring, and that'll take a while to build out. It's a big chunk of land. But those are 2 areas where we have single family housing. The Bueller Farm plat, that was the acre proposal, also has single family housing in it. We would hope to see that emerging as well. There's been perpetual work to get Heritage Gardens back going. Its habit has been, goes all right with a builder for 5 years, that the builder runs out of steam or interest, and it sits for 5 years. We're kind of in that sit period right now, but that is still another source of future housing and the single family category. The policies that are in the comp plan related to where to site higher density housing apartments have played out pretty well, in my opinion, with the proposals to locate, a lot of that housing along 51. That's by design, and it checks a lot of the boxes for higher density housing. So the Bueller Farm, where we're going to see some of that, DeForest Yards in particular, are just a couple of examples of that. Related to that, supporting more housing for seniors and workforce, I'd say there's a lot in planning on that and less on the ground. Although we have, plenty of development going on for empty nesters, particularly in Conservancy Place with the condominiums that Brian Sipple has been building. The other things I'll touch on just quickly is the advancing development within the Northern Interstate Corridor and encouraging economic and mixed use development within the Northern Interstate Corridor. That's the area that extends all the way from the north edge of Conservancy Place on the east side of the interstate to the proposed Buc-ee's site on the west side of the interstate. So it's a pretty vast area with a lot of different development opportunities. TID 9 has been expanded. There's been annexations of land. You're aware of the development proposals, urban service area expansion, more to come, especially west of the interstate. That'll be on your plate in the near future. And then the final thing I'll talk about, another high priority initiative, was encouraging economic and mixed use development in the Highway 1951 district. The Forest Yards, the Quick Trip campus are really the headliners there to carry out some of the recommendations within that detailed plan that was included as part of the comp plan. The next table I won't spend as much time on. I will mention that this table again is really related to quantitative achievement of goals. So the plan, for example, has a benchmark that the village ought to increase non-residential property value increase by 5% each year. Based on the last 2 years, we have data for the village non-residential value actually increased 15%. So the benchmarks are in the plan. The performance are new things that we've added to kind of measure performance against the plan. Some of them very measurable, like that one. Others a little less measurable, but important nonetheless. Waterway environmental corridor flood protection effort. The DNR just upgraded Yahara to a Class 2 trout stream. That's due, in part at least, to the efforts that the village and others have undertaken to improve water quality and land use around the river. So I'm happy to go into more of this. There's I think, like I said, great goal achievement that has been realized. Part of the reason for going through this is to, I guess, pat ourselves on the back or identify areas we could improve. Part of this could lead to further amendments to the comprehensive plan. We don't believe, especially just 1 year into the current plan, that any are necessary, but that's open for discussion here tonight as well.
And Mark, if I could add something that maybe Bill can add to it. If you scroll up a little bit, was it the policies, one of the last ones? It's talked about, say, agreements with Westport and Vienna. And my understanding is Bill has started some of those discussions, and I suspect that those will be things that come to the planning and zoning at some point, be at a very distant point, but anything to add with that, Bill, or go ahead and whatever you're gonna say?
Yeah, we're just in very early discussions in regards to Westport. I was just gonna add a comment to the Highway 19, Highway 51 district plan, and update this commission. We have been in contact with Wisconsin DOT regarding traffic lights at Williamsburg Way, Peterson Crossing, Highway 19. That's been approved by the DOT. They're in the design phase, engineering, planning, and we're hopeful to see, something this year yet. Also in talks with them for stoplights at the Highway 51, Metro Drive, Williamsburg Way intersection. Tentative or approval for lights. We still have to get additional approvals this year, and then we hope to have construction started on that next year.
Thank you. Any questions, comments from the commissioners? Jean?
Yeah, I have a comment. It's nice to see, and for a lack of a better word, the successes that you have listed out here. So thank you. It's nice to see it all together.
No, you're
Thank
welcome.
you.
I thought there was going to be a but.
Thank you. I agree. And I'll share some of the conversation. Yeah, some of the conversation that we had at the village board. If you scroll up to that one that talked about redevelopment, and I think you're supposed to have one per year or something. And Alex was pretty confident he's gonna top that every year, right?
Yeah, one of the things we did talk about is redevelopment is hard. It takes a long time, a lot of effort, a lot of pieces have to be put together, compared to, developing a greenfield which is easier. So to have one redevelopment project, building knocked down, new building built in the downtown or elsewhere village-wide would be a big lift. So as we look forward to maybe tweaks and amendments, maybe it gets tacked on to something else that could be, redevelopment of one site initiative every 2 years or 3 years. Unless Alex wants to keep it as is.
Either way, it's a good goal and it's really good report to see what's happening because we sort of lose sight of everything that's coming through and actually a lot of stuff that don't even come to us that the village is doing on staff and consultants. So thanks.
Yeah, and a lot of this stuff, we hope that this redevelopment opportunity will come to fruition in the downtown area. And if it does, you will definitely see and be a part of it and the action on it.
Thank you. Anything else? If not, again, thank you, Mark, and we'll move on to item number 7. 7.1 is Chair's report. Say June 4th, we had quite a few things, including the comprehensive plan, future land use map amendment that was passed by the village board. That was also at this committee. Interesting thing I thought is Senator Joan Ballwig, a state senator, came to talk to us, I think mainly because of the redistricting. So she's going to be our new state senator. And it was good to talk to her and find out some of her prerogatives and share some of our concerns. There was an ordinance passed as far as preservation and protection of natural areas. That's been an area of much debate and a number of different meetings. So I, for one, was happy to have something maybe brought to a bit of a conclusion, but we will continue to work on those issues through other processes. There's different ordinances that have been in front of us as a committee. The future land use map was amended for Fleet Farm and Savannah Brooks. There's a preliminary and final plats of Riverstone Plat. That was the Brian Sipple project as of late. There is a prohibition on parking on a few streets. And also another exciting turn of events is contract for construction of Northtown Road, which would be the final connection, say, between Windsor and Bell Labs. So that road would be a through road. And Bill, do you want to, is that construction this year, if I remember right?
That's correct. So bids were accepted on that, I believe a couple of weeks ago. The developer Bueller Farms, Pleasant Hills LLC should be starting grading on that property soon. Village starts construction on Northtown Road approximately August here, and we should be concluded by the end of the year.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that I think is sort of exciting is that we're creating some opportunities for our youth. It's calling it a youth advisory council and maybe adding high school youth to different committees. So that's a potential maybe for this next semester, but more likely for sure the year after. So if you know of any individuals that might be interested, please let Alex know. And as far as the committee of the wholes, one of them was talking a lot about our strategic plan in preparation for, say, other meetings with the village board. We reviewed the comprehensive plan like we did here tonight. And we talked about the budget cycle coming up. The audit too. We got the audit results and everything's good. Anything else, Colleen, you want to add?
No, I just want to say that highly unusual for me. It was actually quite exciting at the last village board meeting to hear the audit people present what a fantastic financial condition we are in and how well we manage our finances. And then having sat through, excuse me, Bill, but what a lot of this comprehensive plan stuff with our goals and whatnot can kind of seem like, yeah, when it's going on. I was so impressed when Mark put this up at the village board meeting to see, this is what we said we wanted to do. This is what we did. Wow, we really did. So, hey, we're a success.
And the thing that I can't talk about is there's a lot going on in closed session, so I look forward to many more development opportunities as far as coming through our committee too, so. From the looks of that, it looks like we'll continue to be a success. And I will end my report there. If anybody's got questions. So staff report. Brandy, do you want to start? Okay.
Yeah, I just have one update that I wanted to give. I did give this update at village board as well. But Cobblestone Hotel, you guys have seen kind of preliminary things on that project. They have withdrawn their application for the time being. It doesn't mean that it's completely off the table, but they've decided not to move forward at this particular time. So just wanted to give you an update on that.
Okay. Alex or Bill? Yeah.
I'll give a quick report just because it pertains to this commission. Last week I was in attendance at the Wisconsin Wisconsin Cities Managers Association and took part in a session. And of the participants that were there, DeForest was one of the highest in net new construction last year. And one of the few that beat out the rise of interest per capita. So congratulations.
Thank you. Again, speaking to what Colleen said, it's good to be financially sound right now. So 7.3, site plan approvals. CSM approvals.
I did have one CSM for a duplex. The request was for a 0 lot line CSM. So basically it was one ownership under the duplex and the CSM was dividing the duplex in half so they can sell it as two different quote parcels. So that was reviewed and approved by staff.
Thank you. 7.5, development process and enforcement suggestions. Anybody? Seeing none. Our next meeting, I believe, was it July 23rd? Motion to adjourn, anybody?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Jean, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Shannon. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
I,
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Unanimous.
At 7:03 probably. I can't quite see. Thank you very much.
Yeah.